Hello, welcome to the Leadership Batch, which is part of the Women's Leadership channel hosted by me, Uma Gupta. And what I would like to do in this channel and in this segment is to bring for you the best leadership tips from around the world. What we know is that there is an abundance, in fact, an overwhelming amount of material on leadership, whether it's videos, podcasts, books, articles, documentaries. And when there is so much information, it kind of gets overwhelming and challenging to figure out what is it that we need to glean from all of this information that is out there and what really applies to us. Not everything that is out there applies to us because we are unique and our situations are unique as well. So what I do in this channel is to do the homework for you, is to review the best leadership material that is out there and to summarize it and to bring it to you and to also customize it for what I know my audience like and want. So in this particular segment, I want to focus on time management. And the reason why I'm starting out this women's leadership channel with time management is that what we know from across a cross-section of industries, from across age groups, and people with titles and without titles, when we look at success and when we look at successful people from around the world, what becomes very obvious is that individuals who are successful, no matter how you define success, individuals who are successful are exceptionally good in time management. And so sometimes we look at them with wonder. How do they get so much done every single day? How come they are so focused? They are so productive. They seem to be very tailored and goal-oriented, whereas some of us may struggle with managing our time. We work very hard, we spin our wheels, and yet we don't seem to accomplish what we really need to accomplish. So I truly believe that the ability to manage time and to work diligently towards one's goals is really one of the founding factors, one of the critical factors, one of the fundamental concepts of leadership. So in this segment, what I did was to really take a look at some of the material that is out there in time management. And I'm going to begin a series, perhaps 2 or 3 videos, where I'll talk about time management by bringing to you the best tips from around the world. So what is evident is that when we look at time management, that there is so much information out there, so much on time management, whether it's YouTube videos or TED Talks or documentaries, books, podcasts. There's just an exceptional amount of material out there. So what I did was to review many of the YouTube videos, and I must confess, so many of them are so bad. There's no other way to put it, because what many of the videos or many of the individuals who are talking about time management, what they do is to assume that what works for them will also work for you. Or they're pulling together a few key ideas that have been discussed for years and years and years and presenting it in a new light. But it's really the same ideas that are kind of tweaked and twisted and presented to you over and over again. And unfortunately, we know that many of those ideas really don't work. So here was one thing that really shocked me as I was listening and watching some of the YouTube videos. Really, some of them have, hundreds of visitors. But for example, one of the speakers on time management speaks about having children with time, spending time with children, and that really needs to be on your calendar. So you say from 4 to 6 in the evening, I'll spend time with my children. I thought about that for a moment, and I thought, Well, really, there's an idiotic idea. So if your child comes to you, what are you going to say? Oops, sorry, you're not on my calendar. I don't get to spend time with you. And I think it also points to a fundamental reason why so many of the time management ideas that are pushed on us really don't work for us. Because in many ways, these time management ideas treat us as robots. We just have tasks to do, and that the more we finish, the better off we are as human beings. In some ways, it really takes away the human element of who we are, of what we do, of how we live our lives. And so I am not someone who believes that our job is to get up every morning, is to hustle, is to work like robots, is to just have a long list of things to do, and that at the end of the day, we can brag because we finished these list of things to do and that we are so amazingly productive. That is not my concept of time management. Instead, I want to be a human being that enjoys the journey, that is also productive, that is goal-oriented, and at the same time, I get time to smell the roses, to watch the clouds in the sky, to hear the birds chirp, to be myself, to really spend some time doing what I really enjoy, to let the day take its course. Each day is unique. Each day brings with it some new situations, new challenges. And I don't want to be a robot that is driven by the calendar. Instead of the calendar controlling me, I want to be able to control the calendar and go with the flow, if you will. So when we look at some of the time management concepts and ideas that are pushed on us, we see that there is a pattern where people believe that what works for them should also work for you. And given the many attempts that many of us have made to adopt some of these principles, and then we try this for 2 weeks, and then we go, darn it, it really doesn't work for me. And I believe that in order for time management principles to work for you, the principles themselves have to be customized. Certainly, there are certain core principles that works. There are certain core principles that cannot be changed. They are true, they are sometimes even universally applicable, and we need to take that and we can apply that. But we cannot blindly follow the rules, the methods, the techniques that works for somebody else. Instead, we have to take the gist, the core of it, and we have to say, who am I, and what is it that is unique about me, and how can I customize these standard principles so that it makes sense for me, for my lifestyle, for who I am, for what my priorities are, for what my goals are. How can I take universal, widely applied time management principles, and instead of blindly following them, how can I apply them in a unique, customized sort of way to who I am and what my life situation is. So one of the exercises that I'd like to leave you with for today is to really apply the time management principles to you and to ask and to answer some fundamental questions about you. And we will pick this up in my next video. But I believe that for time management to work, we have to ask certain questions and gain a deeper understanding of who we are and what works for us. So let me touch on a few things and give you an exercise to think about, and then we will pick up on this again in the next video. Your goals are unique. So when we talk about time management almost always is tied to some set of goals that we want to achieve. The goals may be short-term goals, the goals may be long-term goals. The goals may be personal goals, or the goals may be professional goals. Regardless, the goals that we have are unique. So the goals that a CEO may have are quite different from the goals that somebody who is just entering the workforce may have, which may be very different from the goals that a stay-at-home mom has. Regardless of where you are whether you are in the corporate world or you are not in the workforce, regardless, you have some goals that you really want to accomplish, because goals in many ways are tied to our sense of well-being, our sense of happiness, our sense of making progress. The second thing is, goals do have timelines, and the timeline varies depending on your goals, depending on your life circumstances. So for example, let's take a student who is both going to college and who is working. The timeline for that student to complete their degree may be quite different from somebody who's going to school full-time. Or the timeline for goals for a CEO or a senior executive to achieve X, Y, or Z may be very different from somebody who's moving up the corporate ladder. So when we look at goals, we also need to have reasonable timelines, which in turn will affect our time management. Third, all our goals have to be prioritized. If everything is number one, is of the highest priority, then that becomes difficult to do, because there's only this many hours in a day, there's only this much capacity that we have to apply ourselves. We get mentally tired, so we need to prioritize our goals. Fourth is that we need to have some sort of flexibility in your goals. There are some goals that may have very limited flexibility, and there are other goals that may have a wider berth or more flexibility. So if there is a goal that has very limited flexibility, certainly the time management principles that we are going to use for those goals would be very different from a goal for which we have a little bit more flexibility. So your time management concepts and principles and strategies will certainly be influenced by the flexibility that you have around your goals. Next, whether we realize it or not, our values and our beliefs also affect how we manage time. So when you look at the Eastern culture, the culture from the East, we see that individuals who are from the East have a more relaxed view of the world. So if you look at Asian cultures, they have a more relaxed view of the concept of time. Whereas when we look at the Western Hemisphere, people have a very rigid relationship with time. And it has both. It's not that one is better than the other. It simply means that your concept of time and time management is also influenced by your values and beliefs. Some people may believe that if they are not working 24/7, or if they are not constantly focused on their goals and just being what we call productive within quotes, then somehow they are not living up to their full potential. While others, their values may be to have a more balanced view of life, that work has its place and play has its place. So their approach to time management may differ. Therefore, when you look at time management principles that apply to you, it is certainly important to reflect on what are my values, what are my beliefs, what is my relationship with time, how do I view the concept of time in terms of leading a magnificent life, what is the role of time, what is my view on work-life balance, because all of that will influence how you approach time and how you manage your time. Next, your life circumstances also affect your ability to manage time. So if you tend to compare yourself with somebody else, your life circumstances and their life circumstances may be entirely different, and so that comparison may not only be unfair, but it may also frustrate you. So we have to take a look at our life circumstances as it is of today and continuously tweak our time management principles. When our life circumstances change, we also have to change our time management strategies. So what we did at a time when we had less responsibilities, how effective we were at managing time, might be very different than how we can manage time if and when we have young children. So we need to take that into account and accordingly modify our time management principles, because otherwise we're simply going to get frustrated. Next, situations. Time management is dependent on situations. There are days when you simply have to chuck your calendar out because there is a compelling situation, a time-sensitive situation, and that has to drive your time management strategies. Equally important is that there are days when you get up and your mind is focused on completing one project. There seems to be a flow. There seems to be some level of excitement. Your mind is really geared. There's creative ideas that's flowing around that project. When that is the case, it would be foolish to shut off that and say, oh, I had only allocated 1 hour for this project. I cannot work on this one. I have to move on to the next project. Flow is an extraordinarily meaningful concept. It has a direct impact on productivity, and more importantly, flow has a direct impact on happiness. So it's important sometimes to just let the situation drive your time management strategies rather than to be rigid about it. And finally, I believe every day that we wake up, just as how we look out and we see the weather and we read up on what the weather is, there's also what I call the emotional weather. Some days you are high on the happiness scale. Some days the happiness scale may not be that high. Some days you might be more worried than others. And so all of this also has to be taken into account when we look at our time management strategies. Excuse me. So the exercise that I would like to suggest is to first draw what I call a landscape of your life, and to take some of these things that I talked about and to at least give it some thought. Because if you look at these as spokes in a wheel, or a pie, or you're drawing a painting and the painting is affected by all of these factors, your goals, the timeline, priorities, flexibilities, values and beliefs, life circumstances, situations, and your emotional radar on that day, all of that affects your time and how you manage your time. So at the very least, I would begin by taking a look at the first 4 things. What are my goals? What is the timeline by which I want to accomplish these goals? How would I prioritize these goals? And what sort of flexibility do I have when it comes to achieving these goals? Next, I would look at my values and beliefs and my life circumstances, and to look at, in general, what is my mood during my work week in order to accomplish my goals. This sort of reflection and deeper self-awareness is absolutely essential in order for one to really come up with effective time strategies. So, as I always share in this channel, it is important for all of us, to listen to a wide range of ideas that come from different people, different perspectives. That's why a global view of what is happening in leadership. That's why I try to bring leadership tips from around the world, because the more we listen to a diverse set of ideas, the better off we are. After we listen, we have to adapt those ideas to what applies to us. Not every idea will apply to us, and sometimes we try new ideas because we are excited when we hear about the idea, and then we go, nah, not good. I really don't care for this. And the most important thing is to act. So often we read, we listen, We think, yes, that works, we want to do, and then we go back to doing our usual thing. So the importance of acting and following up on what we do is extremely important. So if you have any questions or thoughts or ideas, you can go to my website or you can email me at Uma. It's uma@umagupta.com. So Uma is my first name, uma@umagupta.com, or you can go to my website. You'll find my email address there as well. Very much look forward to hearing from you. So in my next video, I'll pick up on the exercise, continue to talk a little bit more about it, and bring for you tips from around the world as to how you can customize your time management strategies so that it is unique and it works for you. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I appreciate it, and I very much look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, and bye-bye.